Hey friends, Erica here from Milestone Mom, and welcome to my channel. So Milestone Mom is all about child development, special needs, and the early intervention program with a whole lot of community involved. So my goal is to build a community that you moms can come to, you can talk to each other, and you can feel safe. So that's Milestone Mom. Make sure you hit subscribe and also hit the notification button just so you can get notified of when I do videos, when another video is uploaded. If you missed my last video, make sure you check it out here. It is what a speech therapist is and what a speech therapist does for the early intervention program and the 3 different areas that the speech therapist looks at. So today we're going to be diving into what a feeding therapist does for early intervention and kind of identifying like a problem feeder versus a child that might have some oral sensory concerns. So if that is you, if you are a parent that's dealing with a child that has some of those issues, then you want to make sure that you stick around. Hey guys, and welcome back. We are going to dive into what a feeding therapist is and what they do for early intervention. So, a feeding therapist can do a couple of different things. They can come in and they can deal with problem eaters or picky eaters. Now, keep in mind, guys, that most 2-year-olds are picky eaters, okay? So, is your child losing weight because they're not eating very well? Are they choking on food? Are they gagging on food? Do they have poor nutrition? Yes, they're picky, but are they only eating fruit roll-ups for weeks and you can't get them to eat anything else? Are they having a lot of food refusals? Are they having difficulty chewing or swallowing food? How about, do you have a child that has maybe an oral sensory concern? So they don't eat certain textures, or they cry, or they're really fussy, or there's discomfort when they're eating certain things. The oral sensory piece can also kind of run over into touch. Are they not even able to touch those peaches to pick them up and put them in their mouth? So those are some of the things that a feeding therapist will come in and look at in the early intervention program. So the picky eating and the oral sensory portion of it. Now, the first thing that the feeding therapist is going to do, now remember, early intervention is birth to 3. So one of the first things that they have to do when they come in is make sure that there's nothing medically wrong, okay? Is there a lip or a tongue tie? Does your child need a swallow study to make sure that they're swallowing the food appropriately and make sure there's nothing medical hindering any of that? So the first thing they are going to do is want you to probably get a swallow study. We're going to make sure there's no lip or tongue tie. Any medical issues need to be addressed before they can start working with your child. But if all of that's been done and we realize that maybe it's just a texture aversion or they're being extremely, extremely picky, then that's something that our feeding therapist can definitely work on. Now, keep in mind, guys, we do adjust for age up until 24 months. So if your child is 10 months old and they were born 8 weeks early, we adjust 1 month for every 4 weeks. So if they're 10 months, they're only 8 months adjusted. So you have to make sure that you're not giving them 10-month-old or 12-month-old food when they're only 8 months old. So make sure you keep that in mind. Now, I do get a lot of questions on when a occupational therapist would be needed versus a feeding therapist. Now, if we have a child that has a lot of aversions to food and we know it's that sensory component or that oral sensory component, we can definitely get an occupational therapist in there to assess your child and kind of see what some of those issues are. And they can compile like a sensory profile, and maybe it is where your child needs a occupational therapist versus a feeding therapist. So those are some different options, but we just don't know until we actually come into the home and look at your child and kind of devise a plan of action for them. So feeding therapist, they come in, they look at picky eating, They look at oral sensory components. We kind of decide, do we need an occupational therapist? Do we need a feeding therapist? Are there any medical issues getting in the way that need to be addressed first before we can successfully work with them in feeding? So if you missed my last video on what a speech therapist is, make sure that you check it out here. And next, I am going to talk about what an occupational therapist is, which is perfect because we just finished talking about some sensory components with feeding. So if you're interested in seeing that video, make sure you stick around, okay?